It's a very fresh morning out there. It's saying it's just 4 degrees on the temperature gauge on the van, but it's very settled. The sun is trying to break through. It's a little bit foggy. We are at Lindholme Lakes complex. We're going to be here for 5 days. We got here about 45 minutes ago, and that's because we wanted to have a nice, relaxed, full English breakfast in the lovely Phoenix Cafe restaurant bar, which is on site. It's a really nice place to eat. We will be eating there every evening as well, so we're looking forward to a nice bit of social time. I'm actually over on Laurel's Lake today. I haven't fished this lake for probably 2-3 years, and I think that was the only time that I'd fished it. There aren't many anglers here. It is Monday morning, but the sun's trying to break through, and there's a few fish crashing as well. The project for today, the first job of the week, is to do some filming for the Matrix YouTube channel. So I'm going to be fishing with some winter tactics. So I'm going to be showing you those, let you know how that fishes. Later on today we will be getting the keys for the lodge, so we're going to be looking forward to settling into that a little bit later on today. I have got Dad here with me, so he will be pleasure fishing all week as well. But we've got tasks and we've got things planned all week. We're going to be on different lakes throughout the complex and fishing different methods, different tactics, so it looks set to be a great week. I'm going to get the gear down now, down to the peg. I think I know where we're going to fish. I've got a nice little bit of open water, but I have got a couple of islands to fish to as well. So I'm going to go down there, get set up, get the camera gear out and crack on with some work. Well, this particular session was focusing on fishing the pellet feeder, and it turned out to be a really interesting day. I was working my way around the swim, starting in the open water, and it was amazing. Just like, you know, we talk about every winter, that quite often location is so important, and just trying to find fish can be the biggest task of the day. But finally we found some fish. It turned into a really nice session, quite exciting actually, because when you're fishing like this, it's a self-hooking way of fishing. And just out of the blue, you know, you're just suddenly getting your rod almost dragged in. And I ended up catching some F1s and some carp, and it was a really interesting session. The weather really helped, and obviously fishing a lake that's got plenty of fish in it meant that I could get the video done, shot and finished for about 2:30. So that then gave me about an hour or so just to try something a little bit different. Well, it's absolutely flat calm, as you can see now. I've got all the camera gear out and everything. It's been an interesting session so far. Dad's been catching some silverfish, but I've had about 4 now. I think I've had 4 F1s and a proper carp, getting some line bites. Well, that's what happens at this time of year. As you can see, the peg behind me, I've got an island there right in front of me, and then I've got another one to fish to here. But it should be a very interesting video. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. It will be on the Matrix YouTube channel, so I managed to get that done. I'm just going to change tactics now and fish a different way. I'm going to try and catch on a bomb. I think I might try a grain of corn, and just see what happens there. I'm going to fish with that over towards this island on my right hand side, so that'll be interesting to see what happens. So I've just set another rod up, and basically it's just a free running bomb, as you can see. That's all it is. 17 gram bomb, bottle bomb, free running. Got a rubber stopper there, and then I've got a hook length there of about 15 centimeters, and then I've got a speed stop there. Simple as that. Simplicity in itself. All I'm going to do is put some corn on. I fed about 20 pieces of corn by catapult out there towards the edge of that island. That was about 15 minutes ago. So I'm just going to start with 1 grain of corn on, just see what reaction we get. As you can see, 1 grain of corn there, just the right size. This is quite large. This is the F1 corn. It's quite a large piece that, and it just fills up the that speed stop hair rig. Okay, so let's get this out there. Just off the corner of the island. I'm sure if there's any fish there, they'll let us know that they're there with just undo that drag.
I'm sure they'll let us know if they're there, even if it's just with line bites. What I'll do is I'll see how this first couple of casts go. If we start getting indications, I'll just keep flicking with the catapult a few grains of corn out and just see what reaction we get. I've just had a little indication, a liner I reckon. I'm sure there were fish milling around the island. There's that many overhangs there, it just looks ideal for balls of F1s or just carp cruising around. We have seen a few fish topping today, not just here, further down, but that light is slowly starting to fade now, so I'm sure we're gonna find a few fish. Well, I've had a couple of casts there now. I've had one or two little indications, but nothing, you know, nothing major. I'm just gonna see if some grains of corn falling through the water will draw any sort of fish in. So I'm gonna go still fish the same spot, but just start flicking 2 or 3 grains of corn over the top to see if that'll draw something in. Single grain of corn again. Let's see if we can land him. Let's have a look. Yes, one. Yes, we've got one. Woo! That's a nice fish to finish on. Lovely. He's still fighting. Let's have a look. Where's he out? Just in the corner of his mouth. There we go. Lovely conditioned fish, that one. Brilliant, we got one just before the light went. Lovely fish. Excellent, great way to finish. Well, I managed to finish on a fish, which was good. Dad's had quite a few fish as well. He's fished with maggots and a little feeder. He's been catching some silverfish, so he's thoroughly enjoyed it. So it's the last little bit of daylight now, so just going to get the kit back to the van. Looking forward to something to eat now. It was brilliant to finish on a fish. It just kind of capped off a very busy day, but a very enjoyable one. The brilliant thing was that we were going to be staying here for the next 4 nights, so it meant that we didn't have the drive back home. We didn't have to get back on the motorway. And when you're always fishing matches like myself, you're either rushing straight off to go to the payout for a match, or you've got to get home. So it was nice to see the fishery at sunset. There was still 1 or 2 anglers still on the banks making the most of the last few minutes of daylight, but it was lovely to see the fishery. So we just could drive round to the far side of the complex, which is where the lodges are. Alex Doherty, who works at the fishery, kindly brought the keys over for us, so then it was just a case of us trying to find which lodge we were going to be staying in. Well, that's our home for the next 4 nights. This is Deer View Lodge. Just about to go dark now, and we have actually got our own pegs here as well. This is the old Oasis Lake, for those that remember Oasis from years ago. I don't know if we're going to get a chance to fish this lake this week, but I will try. And there is our home. There we go. Oh, it's nice and warm already. I don't know if the heating's on. This is our home. This is a base camp. Very nice, as you can see. I'll just kick my shoes off. Quickly show you what we've got. Obviously that's the kitchen. in these particular lodges there's literally everything that you would need, from washing machines to dishwashers. They're lovely and warm as well, which is ideal if you're going to be having a winter stay. There's a lovely nice bathroom, but there's also a double room which has got an ensuite bathroom, and then the room that I would be staying in was the twin room.
It's been a really productive day. We've got loads of work done. We caught some fish as well. Dad's loved it. He's caught loads of silverfish, so now it's time to... We've got a pizza. We're going to whack a pizza in the oven and just relax for the rest of the evening. I'm going to be planning tomorrow's session. We're going to be fishing a completely different lake tomorrow and a different method. So I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully Dad's going to catch a few fish as well. So I'm going to sign off now. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and I'll see you in the morning. Good morning. I honestly thought there was going to be a frost last night, but there wasn't. You know, the windscreen's wet. Maybe there was a bit of a frost, but then it's thawed out this morning. I don't know, but there certainly isn't a sign of one now. It's early morning now. It's Tuesday morning. I'm going to be fishing a different lake today. We're going to be fishing a different method. Had a great night's sleep. So comfortable and warm in there. It's lovely in that lodge. This is the old Oasis lake behind me. This is the two pegs we've got actually on site with the lodge. Last time I fished on this lake was back in May, when I was actually fishing for barbel on the pole, and I had a fish every cast on maggots. Did catch a couple of barbel, it was great. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to fish this lake on this particular trip, but it's looking very wintry now. You can see the leaves on the water. The clarity's gone much clearer, but you know, let's face it, it's the middle of November, so that's what's going to happen. So the plan for today, after a cup of coffee, is I'm going to head up to the on-site tackle shop, get some fresh bait, find out where we can actually fish today. There are 2 or 3 matches on today, I believe, so that'll let us know where we can actually pleasure fish, and then we're going to head across to the cafe and have a breakfast. A massive advantage of staying here on this complex is the on-site tackle shop. It's surprising how much stock this tackle shop's actually got, and they also provide fresh bait as well, so it means you don't have to take all those little bits and bobs along with you. You can make your bait decisions on the morning, because sometimes you might not know what lake you're going to be on, so you can leave it while the last minute and then buy your bait accordingly. Aaron Grantham was in the tackle shop, and he was on hand to let us know which lakes we could and couldn't fish. And the great bit of news for me personally was that there weren't any matches on the very well known Bonsai lake, so that would be our destination for today. There wasn't much wind, but it was really cold. It was evident that these last 48 hours the temperatures had really dropped, and I heard that it had affected lots of fisheries in the area. I thought it was going to be hard, and so I decided to go down a fish with maggot kind of approach, just to see if we could catch anything that swims. Well, the wind's not as strong as what I thought. There is a bit of a breeze blowing on this lake. I'm actually on Bonsai. It's very rare that you ever get a chance to fish on here, to be honest, because I don't fish matches here. Every time I have been here, I've not been able to fish this lake. However, we've heard it is fishing hard at the moment, so I'm going to go down the maggot route today. I'm going to be fishing with a maggot feeder. I'm just going to fish for bites. There are fish topping. One's just top there behind me. There are some fish topping, so there's definitely fish that are active at the minute. I'm going to fish with maggots. My only concern is I don't really know what the silverfish stock is like on here anymore, so we could have trouble with roach and other fish, but I guess we're going to find out. I decided to target the island opposite, and I did that with an inline maggot feeder, and after an hour without a single bite, I just simply couldn't believe how hard it was fishing, especially as there were so many fish topping. I suspected that they were F1s, but they were crashing everywhere.
The strange thing as well was I wasn't really getting any line bites, but it was obvious the fish were there, so I decided to go down a different approach and just try and fish it a little bit more like we would in the depths of winter. So that meant a bomb and bread approach, but I also switched to corn as well. Throughout the session I was loose feeding pieces of corn down to my right, down the margin. So even though the first half of the session was quite slow, I caught a few fish. I did fully expect that some fish were going to arrive down that margin later on towards the end of the session.
Well, I cannot believe how hard it's fishing. It's I think I've only caught 3 or 4 F1s up to now. Really hard. Dad is fishing next to me. He hasn't even had a bite yet, and he's been fishing with maggots as well. I fished the first part of the session with maggots, and it's rock hard. Just spoke to an angler who's fishing a few pegs to my right, actually on the point, and he's not even had a bite. He's fishing with maggots, casters, he's got chop worm, he's just not had a sign. It's obvious winter's here now. Last night, even though there wasn't a frost, the temperatures dropped and that wind is like ice. It's freezing cold. There's an open match on here today. It's the feeder and bomb league, so I just thought I'd come and have a quick nose and just see if I can see some fish being caught.
It didn't look like there was much activity on that particular match, which was on Laurels, which was the lake that I fished the previous day, but afterwards I saw the match results and it was evident that there were plenty of fish feeding, and I think the top weight on that lake was about 70 pounds, so it just shows that with the right approach, even when it's cold, on these shallow commercials you can still catch plenty of fish if you get the tactics right.
Well, we're just going into the second part of the session now. I'm just about to have a look down the margin. I've been priming it with corn down to my right hand side, so I'm hoping there's going to be a few fish settled down there, either some F1s or some bigger fish. I've just had a phone call from Dean Barlow. He's actually joining us this evening. He should be up here at about 10 o'clock tonight, we think. He's going to stay with us for the next 2 nights. So we're hoping he's going to get up here in time for a beer, which will be nice bit of a social time. If not, it'll just be straight to bed and up early. We've got 2 busy days ahead of us, but it'll be nice to see Dean, and hopefully if he gets up here in time for something to eat as well, that'd be great, so we can all have a meal together. But just going to head back to the peg now and have a look down that margin.
When I returned to my peg, I couldn't wait to go down that margin just to see if there were any fish settled on that loose fed corn that I'd been feeding down the margin to my right, and thankfully there were a few F1s there waiting for me.
Well, that turned out to be an absolute rock hard session. Winter is definitely here now. Just it was a case of changing things, slowing things down, feeding much less and being patient. Just typical winter fishing. But thankfully I've ended up catching a few fish, and the full video from today will be on this channel in a week or 2. It's just coming up to 4 o'clock now, so we're going to get packed away now. Some of the kit's still wet. I've got a very busy day tomorrow on the bank, and we're going to go back now. I'm just looking forward to a shower, getting changed, and then we're going to go in the restaurant and have some hot food, and then have a couple of beers, and then wait for Dean to arrive a little bit later on.
As the sun set, it was time to just get back to the lodge, get showered, get changed, and look forward to a nice relaxing evening in the restaurant. When we got in there, it wasn't too busy, it was just really nice and relaxed, it was really nice and warm, and whilst we were waiting for our food, I took time out to take a look at one corner of the restaurant which is dedicated to some sports memorabilia, and some of that is from a good friend and venue regular Tom Pickering. And before we knew it, the restaurant owner Mike was over with our food. I went down the southern fried chicken burger route, whereas Dad went for the fish and chips, and he was faced with probably the biggest battered fish he's ever seen in his life. We just relaxed for the rest of the evening and went back to the lodge, and then Dean arrived at 10 p.m, where we just had a chat for an hour, and then it was time to get some sleep, because the following 2 days we were going to be holding our group coaching days on 2 different lakes covering 2 different disciplines, so we couldn't wait for everyone to arrive in the morning.
Well, myself and Dean run several of these days throughout the year on different sorts of venues covering different tactics, and we do have some on natural venues as well, but it's just another great opportunity to actually put a lot of what we talk about in videos and stuff, put them into practice, to show the lads how we actually do them, and then just kind of, it gives them 4 or 5 hours to actually put it all into practice.
After both myself and Dean did the demonstration, everyone went off to their pegs to put into practice what they'd seen, what they'd learnt, and it was Heath who was first off the mark with this 8-pound carp, first cast, and then he went on to catch some huge, great big F1s. At the next peg, Chris Buckley was also into the fish right from the start, and it was clear that this end of this bank was definitely fishing better than the other pegs nearer to the car park. Later in the afternoon, however, those quieter pegs started to get better. Steve, Fuzz and Mark just stuck at the plan, and gradually the pegs started to improve, and then all 3 anglers went on to catch some lovely nets of carp and F1s. It was one of those days where it seemed as though the fishing had been much harder than it actually had been, and there were definitely a few surprises when the anglers took their nets out.
Well, that's been a really interesting session. The lads have just they fished mainly a pellet approach, loose feeding, but we've also fished bombs over the top, and we've fished with method feeders as well, and it's been really interesting how some lads, certainly at one end, which is going towards the point over there, Heath, at that end, they're caught early on with that approach. However, at this end, going down into this corner here where Steve's been, it's been really slow to get going, and where Mark Deacon's been, they really struggled at the start. Even Steve at one stage, he thought he was looking at a blank by 2 o'clock, but then, as we often see in winter, these pegs have then started to produce. They've stuck at the game, kept the feed going in, kept rotating lines, and just kind of not going to loads of different areas in the swim, just keep building it up, keeping some pellets going in, and then they've had a better finish than the lads at the other end. So it's been a really interesting day. It's mainly been F1s, but some proper carp have been caught, and I think the best weight was probably Chris. He's probably had about 60 pound. Dino, what a day.
Cold one, isn't it?
Yeah. How many fish have been caught? It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
I can't believe Lindholme has lived up to all expectations, and I think the fish are starting to ball up a little bit.
Yeah.
And which is shown with I'm not sure, I think I just heard you saying that the pegs down one end was definitely better at the start, but these guys at this end of the lake and caught really big fish, really big F1s.
What biggest F1 you've seen?
5 pound plus.
Yeah, really big fish.
And so it just shows you that I think winter mode is definitely coming in, but the guys have got it sorted today. They caught some fish, they're doing really well.
Yeah, and we've seen fish moving as they do. You know, you might get 3 and 3 casts and then it'll just go dead, so you've got to change something or rest, and then you might see someone else catching. Just got to keep it
Rotation in winter. Rotation is the key, and sometimes you have to cast into a place where you might not get a bite, but it makes the line that you are catching your fish on, it makes it like a safe haven for the fish to go back, gather, and then you go back on it again, and then you catch another couple of fish. Where if you kept plundering it, the fish would just disappear and you won't have a clue where they've gone. So,
and the lads have fished with this very, very cold wind in their face all day.
Cold.
But they've sat it out and they've caught fish as well and stuck at it. So it's just before 4 o'clock now. It's just about to go dark. So we're all packing away now. We're going to head back to the pub and restaurant where we're going to go and have
just a half
of something and a really nice meal. And some of the lads are going to join us as well, which is great. So we can just have a bit of a chat and just have a bit of a social side. So that's kind of our work done for today. We're going to have some hot food and a drink, have some laughs. And then we've got to do it all over again tomorrow. So thank you, Benny's and Lindholme, for not disappointing.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, we've just had a fantastic meal, some lovely hot food, and there's a few rosy cheeks in there now because that wind has finally stopped hitting them in the face like it's been battering them all day, but they've stuck to the guns. They've all had a fantastic day. It's been absolutely brilliant to see the lads that have been here today. They've all stuck at it, and there's been some lovely nets of fish. So that's it for today. We are just going to enjoy the next couple of hours, just relax, unwind. The lads are obviously going to head off to their digs because some of them are actually back here tomorrow for our second day. However, tomorrow's tactics are going to be completely different, and we're going to be on a completely different lake. So we're going to go and unwind for a bit, head back to the lodge, get a good night's sleep, and we look forward to seeing you in the morning. Well, the weather forecast had predicted that the temperatures were going to drop, and that's exactly what we woke up to. It was a very crisp wintry morning. There were clear blue skies, but that's what today was all about. Today was going to be fishing for winter fish with the pole, and we were going to be using baits like maggots and soft pellets. The lake for today was Laurel's Lake. Now, this is not a really deep commercial by any means, but the lads that came along were prepared. They had loads of rigs made up, and it was Dean's turn to do the demonstration for this particular session. What he actually did was he talked through how he would approach a venue like this during winter when you need to cover your options, you need to be prepared to change things, and the venue didn't disappoint. We didn't really know how well it was actually fishing. However, we did know that there were lots of silverfish in that lake, so that even if the carp and F1s didn't want to feed, we thought there'd be enough silverfish there to make sure that everybody got a few bites. After the demonstration, everybody went off to the pegs and just got settled into a routine and fished it just as though it was a match. What was really evident was that it was going to be a slow start. You know, quite a few of the lads just really struggled to get going initially, and that's typical of winter fishing, where quite often the last hour is going to be the best time to fish. But the lads stuck at it. They kept rotating lines, kept feeding the lines, kept them alive, and it was amazing how some of the lads that started on maggot caught, but then later on in the session the lads that fished with expander pellets, they caught as well. And some of the lads even covered both options, and it was great to see that some better fish did feed a little bit later on in the session. And it was one of those days where, again, just like the previous day, it didn't seem as though the lads were catching many fish, but they just kept ticking over, kept putting fish in the net. And as the day went on, as you gradually got in towards that last 45 minutes or so, that's when some of the lads started hooking and landing some better fish as well. But another issue as well was that even when the lads weren't getting bites, they were still getting indications from fish that were in the swim. We know that in winter fish can ball up, and sometimes they're in your swim even when they don't want to feed, and certainly when you're pole fishing you can be getting line bites and little indications, and things like that can just keep spurring you on and keep making you want to ring those changes. All of the lads ended up with a fantastic net of fish in such harsh conditions. The wind was gusting as well, which made pole fishing a little bit more difficult, certainly presentation wise. But once again, it was another invaluable day for the lads. And like I say, some of the lads that have been here today were actually here yesterday, and they've supported our group sessions all throughout 2021. And thanks again to everybody who's been on our group days. This is the final one of the year, and we'll certainly be looking at booking more in for next year. After what's been an incredibly busy 4 months, both here on home soil and away with match fishing, this has been a really nice break to just travel within 50 miles of my home, spend a few days fishing on the bank, manage to get some work done as well, but also spend some time with Dad where he's actually enjoyed some pleasure fishing as well. This is a stunning complex. To have somewhere like this so close to home, we really are spoilt, and with the first class digs as well, it's just made it into an incredible trip once again, and we'll certainly be back here again next year.